And welcome to another episode of Ardent Cinema, the #1 podcast for a book club style discussion of all things movies. This is a weekly podcast, and we encourage you to follow along as we take a deep dive into each movie's plot, overall themes, what we thought of the acting and directing, our feelings on the film, and more. At the end of each episode, we will announce the movie for next week, so make sure to listen until the end. I am your animated host, Sean.
I am your amazing host, Daniel.
Welcome to the show. Soy Alejandro de España, no hablo español. This week, we hope you watch along with us for Tokyo Godfathers 2003.
This bundle of joy is a Christmas present sent from God! She's our baby now!
You know what sounds a lot weirder? The fact we have a crying baby in here.
Find her parents.
We're bums, not action movie stars.
Written and directed by the legendary Satoshi
Yeah,
Kon.
it's a Christmas
Made known
miracle.
on such works as Millennium Actress, Perfect Blue, and Paprika. Starring Toru Amori as Jin, Yoshikai Umegaki as Hana, and Aya Okimoto as Miyuki. Jin, Hana, and Miyuki are three down-and-out vagrants living on the streets of Tokyo. After enjoying a nativity scene and some free soup, they head to the garbage dump for dessert, and they find something unexpected. A dumpster-diving baby. They soon are thrust into an action-packed odyssey to find its deserter mother and slap some sense into her. What did you guys think of the movie?
I really liked it, actually. I thought it was very funny,
Yeah.
very heartwarming.
Definitely.
I felt that it was very unique in the sense of the cast itself. I mean, it's a homeless
Drag queen.
the drag queen. It's this
A-
little girl that's not really homeless, but she's like running away from home because of something that she did, and it's a fun ensemble. They really work well with each other. So yeah, overall, very very good movie.
I love this film. And in fact, it's my favorite film we've watched since the beginning of this podcast.
Woo, woo, woo.
Surpassed even Playtime for me. I thought Playtime was
Damn.
the best film so far, but no, this surpasses that.
So we're prepared for a high score.
You better believe it.
All right. Yeah, I don't usually go in for the everything works out because of destiny and friendship type films, but I definitely take exception with this one. There's a through line of absurdity and self-awareness that really makes up for that, and it doesn't hurt that it's also expertly crafted. I thought it really lived up to its reputation as a classic.
Definitely. I want to ask you guys a question to start off.
Yeah.
What are you guys' thoughts on animated films in general? Do you think they have the capacity to be as like impactful, thought-provoking, however else you want to think about it? Or do you think the medium kind of holds it back from being like a top-tier film, in the annals of cinema? What do you guys think?
I don't think, in terms of quality, that it's lesser. I do feel that animated movies isn't like fooling in the mainstream because a lot of people don't really give it a chance. The older generation still doesn't really want to watch animated movies, so I wouldn't recommend it to them because I know that immediately they wouldn't want to see it. But I think it does have the potential to have the same effect.
Okay. What about you, Alejandro?
Yeah, I don't really see a difference. To me, it's no different than saying, do you think a black and white movie is lesser than a color movie? It's just it's another medium for storytelling. So what people's perception of it are, I don't really care about that. Like, I recommended this one to my mom and she doesn't watch animated movies. If that person trusts you and they're going to sit down and actually give it a try, if it's a good movie, they'll like it. And they may even be surprised.
Definitely agreed. Yeah, I mentioned it because, ever since we started the podcast, every once in a while I look up like top 100 AFI films or whatever, like those kind of lists. And at least in the top 10, top 20, I never see an animated film. So to Danny's point, I think maybe the medium kind of holds it back in terms of broader appeal. But at the same time, I don't think the medium takes away from the quality that, these films can engender.
You could still consider it niche, right? Would you agree?
For adult stories, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, not niche in terms of general appeal because some of the most profitable movies are animated movies every year, But they're family movies or kids movies.
I wonder if it's because maybe some people can't get into it because they're not looking at real people. Like, just they feel like a disconnection because you're watching animated characters.
I don't think that's it. I think it might even be easier to connect because you have that avatar there that you can that that could be anybody. I think it's that I think it's just their experience. If since Disney is the most popular animated studio that are putting out children's movies, if that's what you grew up with, that's what you're gonna think it is. Simple as that. I think if there was a string of adult animated movies, then you would have a newer generation that appreciated it in that way.
Yeah, and also, I mean, most quality adult animated movies, I think, aren't even coming domestically, right? I mean, they're coming from.
I would say most are foreign. Yeah,
they're mostly foreign, which is probably another factor, even that makes it.
Definitely. Just having a foreign film break in is difficult.
I think because there's not like a recognizable face, there may be like a recognizable voice. Like a lot of domestic film, animated films, they'll get like someone random like John Oliver as a voice of like a random dog in an animated film. Like, oh, okay, that's weird. But beyond that, they try to build the movie's credit on like the cachet of like the performers. But I think because you can't actually see those performers, and oftentimes the performers aren't like top tier A-listers, that kind of gets people less excited about the film. At least that's my thought.
Right. Or at least it doesn't draw them in as easily,
exactly.
Right? When you see a trailer for any movie and you see the star that you like, right? Celebrity power is a big thing, right? A celebrity draw. That's why they use these actors over and over again, because they know people are going to, it's going to put butts in seats.
Yeah, exactly.
In the cinemas. But you can't really do that the same way with an animated movie. I mean, you could say, oh, voiced by, right? And
yeah.
And then maybe that can draw your attention, but and especially like foreign films, like Japanese films, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't know the star power of Japan, and I wonder if Japan tries to do that as well. If they try to get their celebrities to voice.
They do, but oftentimes their voice actors are celebrities as well because animation is a much bigger medium there. So the voice actors themselves are celebrities outside of what they were famous for before.
Right. Well, you know what? U.S. needs to catch up with that.
No kidding.
1,000%. Did you guys buy Jin's made-up origin story near the beginning of the movie, where he's first trying to get everybody on his side, and it seemed like it was this? I believed it because it was very practiced. Like I got the feeling that he had given it a few times before.
Yeah, it felt very real. He seemed very emotional about it. Which now, after hearing the real story, he does throw in bits of reality into it, which helps makes it real.
I used to be married before all this. You can forget a lot of things, but not your own kids.
How old would she be now?
She'd have turned 21 this year.
That's all grown up.
She would be, if she was alive. When I was just 20, I got a girl pregnant. I was so happy you could have poked me in the eye and I'd have just smiled. Of course, nothing lasts forever. My daughter got sick and the bills kept stacking up. Believe it or not, I was a semi-well-known cyclist, and there was this race,
And you threw it?
Yeah, I got caught, and so they decided to ban me from racing. My girl died shortly after that. I couldn't work, things got worse, and my wife followed my daughter. That's how you get to be a man like me.
Oh, I knew I didn't want to hear it. I can't stand sad stories.
What he's actually sad about is still true. He lost his daughter, but his daughter wasn't dead.
Mm-hmm.
So he could still kind of throw those emotions in there and make it seem like it was reality. And yeah, I believed it because of that, and also because I felt he had no reason to lie at that point. They were just in their, homeless shelter cardboard box.
Right.
So, I felt like he had nothing to gain to lie.
What would you call the genre of this film? I was feeling thriller as it went.
Thriller? No.
Yeah, it was like nonstop new circumstance after another that they had to kind of make their way through.
Yeah, but that just feels like, that's also just, I don't know, adventure.
I would say adventure. That's the one that came to mind for me.
I wouldn't say that it was a thriller.
Maybe towards the end there were some thriller aspects to it, but it is an adventure. They're literally on a journey here. I totally believed Jin, to be honest, because to Danny's point, I don't think he had any reason to lie. And as he kept bringing up his story, I kept thinking to myself, didn't he say the wife was dead? Wait, she's remarried now? You know, and like things like that kept popping up. And in fact, in my notes, I kept having to go back and kind of change it, not realizing that further and further bits of truth were coming out in his story. So it totally got me for sure.
Another little note about, since we were talking about the nicheness of animated film versus not.
Uh-huh.
Another point that actually pushes that is the fact that the budget was $2.4 million US,
Mm-hmm.
and the box office only made $847,000.
Oh, that's terrible.
Really? I mean, it's
So-
definitely made it back in droves on the home market because it's a huge movie.
Probably. Yeah.
I'm surprised to hear it wasn't good on the theatrical run.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't know how big of a theatrical run it actually had, and its reach. Like, how far into the did it actually go into the United States? Probably not.
It did. It had a New York premiere.
Oh wow. Yeah. Well, I guess it wasn't enough. Too many people don't.
Yeah, it was
don't
like we
see
talked
animated
about. It's hard
films.
to break through.
Yeah.
No star power.
But I actually feel like this was one of the first that did break through into the market, at least on the home release sector. Because whenever I would go into a Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, you go to the anime section and Tokyo Godfathers was always there, along with maybe 10 other movies. But this was one of the few selects. So it must have been a toe in the water for a lot of people into anime.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how much they made on that, on the home release.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, another reason why it probably didn't make that much in the theatrical release is because, well, it first premiered in Japanese theaters in 2003 to great reviews, global acclaim, but it would take 17 years before Kon's classic film would be released in U.S. theaters with an English language dub.
That's right. I think the dub came out in 2019 or 2018, very recently.
Wow.
Yes. Actually, there was an English dub made earlier.
Yeah.
In 2004, but it was
Bad?
it wasn't great, and it was not for the United States. It was actually for live TV broadcasting
Oh, interesting.
in some other countries, and they never really used it.
So you could watch it on TV, but you couldn't go rent it in English.
No.
Okay.
Speaking of dubs, did you guys watch the dub or the sub for this one?
Sean and I watched the sub, but I did go back and listen to both to do some comparisons before I committed to the whole thing.
Wrong. We're messing around looking for junk in a cemetery because we're homeless. But good try.
違う墓場でお供え物をくすねているそれはなぜかホームレスだからだ I knew it Kyoko really is the messenger of God
清子は神様の使いなんだわ。
Unlike you bums, I can go home anytime I want.
その気になれば帰れるうちがあるもん。
What about you?
Yeah, I started watching the dub, and then I paused it, and I was thinking, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. So I started doing a little bit of research on it, and after doing a little reading and doing some comparisons, I was happy to see that the dub actually holds its own really, really well. The English voice actors do a great job at kind of copying the emotional cadence of the voice of the Japanese voice actors. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna watch it in dub, and I really enjoyed it. So the dub that I heard is actually a dub re-release, but the previous dub was done with a company, as I was telling you earlier, called Animax Asia.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
In 2004, who does dubs that tend to air overseas and only on TV, and rarely, if ever, do they get released stateside.
Yeah, Animax did a lot of dubbing, I think, for a lot of the Toonami animes that came out around like the early to mid-aughts. So yeah, definitely recognize the name.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is if you're a movie purist, like you want the exact, well, of course the original is going to be the Japanese version, right?
And it wasn't even a casting director. Satoshi Kon handpicked those actors for those characters that he wrote.
Right. So there's that, and also this dub does take a few artistic liberties with some characters, particularly the transgender homeless character.
Yeah, I was gonna say I sampled Hana, and they definitely changed her lines.
Yes, they do, because from what I've read, in Japan they look more down on transgenderism and homelessness. Like homelessness over there is like a big no-no. Like that's extremely like they look down upon.
I thought it was a huge mistake though when watching it, because part of the point of her character is that she's being persecuted and like is having to deal with these societal issues. They're struggling, you know?
Right.
So softening it up for the American audience, I thought didn't work.
You know, I do feel in the English dub that she still was being persecuted, but they did try to like shine a better light on her, I guess.
It's a lot softer.
More
like
personally,
she's being called a fairy, you know, for example. That's the worst thing, you know?
Right. I guess I have to watch the sub and like really compare fully. Yeah. I was comparing more for quality and less so for the line changes, so I didn't really look into that. But I'm actually very interested to rewatch it in sub completely and fully compare what they did. So again, for the purists out there that want to see the original intent for this film, if you want that, you should see the sub version, because again, they do take a few artistic liberties with some of the characters in the dub version. So go ahead and watch the sub.
I want to talk about the filmmaking a little bit. Satoshi Kon often uses everything in his toolkit for a joke, which I really liked. Kind of reminded me of Edgar Wright for animation. You know, he's using cuts, exaggerated facial features, musical cues, reincorporation, slapstick. And I think that's a really important thing to point out. If you're a film buff that's kind of bored of American improv one-on-one type comedies and you're looking for something new, this is definitely something to delve into. Or if you're a fan of Edgar Wright and his type of comedy, then give it a shot.
I don't know that I've watched any Edgar Wright movies.
Shaun of the Dead.
That was him?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
know. That's Shaun of the Dead?
Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz. What's the drinking one?
Pub Around the World. Something.
No idea.
I actually, that's the only one I didn't see.
It's a trilogy, yeah.
Yeah. Great films. And yeah, it does kind of remind me of Edgar Wright's movies a little bit, for sure. There's a little bit of that similarity.
I need to set up a scene here because I want to ask you a question. So after the group saves a rich businessman that's trapped under a car, he invites them all to a fancy party where Jin tries to assault the guy's son-in-law, right? At the same time, an assassin whips out his gun and tries to shoot the aforementioned businessman. So the guy that Jin is attacking jumps in front of the gun and takes the bullet. So my question was the guy trying to jump in front of the bullet for his boss, or was he trying to dodge Jin's attack?
I feel like he was trying to dodge the attack. That guy doesn't seem like the type of guy that would take a bullet for anybody.
I was of a mixed mind of it because visually it looked like he was trying to take the bullet, but I agree his character didn't seem like a dive in front of the bullet type guy.
Yeah, he's like this scummy guy that he's the one that caused Jin to lose all of his money in the horse race or something.
Yes, we find out later he's a loan shark and they're actually mafiosa. They're not businessmen.
Yeah, they're potentially Yakuza. Actually, I have an interesting note on that later.
Okay.
I could see it more towards him protecting his boss, just because the little I know about that culture, you know, they're very loyal to like the higher ups, and you know, a lot of times they would like lay down their lives for them. So I can imagine him doing that. Although again, I think Jin coming in with a bottle certainly didn't help matters. So.
And actually, I do want to talk a little bit about that scene in general, just the whole assassination attempt.
Sure. What do you have in mind?
Do you guys feel like it should have been in the film?
Yeah, it's a thriller.
Oh my goodness.
Listen, thriller is not horror movies. It's spies and espionages and increasing events in severity.
I mean, but an action adventure can have a lot of those qualities,
right,
you
but
know?
It's in there. That's what...
It's like...
That scene is in there. You're saying it might not fit because it's an action adventure. That makes it not an action adventure.
No, I didn't say it didn't fit because it was not, you know, because it's an action adventure. I was just feeling like it happened and then it just wasn't part of the story. You know what I mean? Like, I just felt like it was a little random in the tone. You know, suddenly going into this guy shooting another guy. The rest of the movie doesn't really go in that direction. You know, it just kind of goes there and then it goes away.
Yeah, it sets up other things. Since you asked, I don't have a problem with it, no.
Yeah, I think it was needed in there. Or need is not the right word. I think it fit because of the style of movie that this is. It's a journey, it's an adventure, and wacky things happen in these adventures. And well, I guess an assassination attempt would be one of them. Because like later on towards the end, they're hanging off the side of trucks and nearly getting crushed, and having to catch each other as they're falling, and they're getting picked up by the wind and things like that. So wackier things have happened. So for me, it was just another event that happens to them. And yes, as Alejandro said, does propel the plot forward into the next part.
Okay. I will admit that for me, it was a little jarring
Okay.
when that happened initially. So I just felt like it was kind of...
I mean, it was
really
jarring, but I thought it was fun. Like, oh, whoa, where did this come from? That's awesome. That was my mindset. Yeah.
Right.
I guess I was thinking more critically about it, like less as a viewer, more like preparing for this. So
I got what you're saying.
When I saw it, I was just like, oh man, this is like, it just felt like out of the tone that we had been watching. But I guess it was just the next level of raising the stakes in the film, right?
And as we see, randomness is going to be a recurring event in this movie.
Oh, it definitely is.
So yeah, I mean, it's I guess at the time it wasn't the tone, right? So it feels out of left field. But it
yeah.
definitely becomes the standard.
Yeah, it jumps from assassination attempts to like Mary Poppin type scenes floating in the air. So yeah, this movie is all over the place, but yeah, it's so fun.
I was trying to look up why the Hispanic assassin was trying to assassinate this mob boss, and I couldn't find anything online, so I had to kind of draw my own conclusion. What did you guys have any ideas about that?
They mentioned, or it's mentioned some point in the film, that it's a rival gang, a rival syndicate that's trying to assassinate the mob boss there.
That was on the news, right? That was like the theory they were going with.
Yeah. So we're not. I don't know that we're presented with anything else. So I take that at its word.
I take it that he was just hired to do it. Pretty much, he didn't have any stake in it other than money, because clearly when you see where they're living, they're in the slums big time. So, and he's just trying, and he has a child and a wife, and he's just trying to make money.
It could be that, definitely. My interpretation was a little bit different. Since we find out that they are loan sharks and they're probably pressuring people for money and high interest rates and paybacks, I was under the impression that, well, for sure the Hispanics are illegal immigrants. I think that's definitely the theme. They're in like these slums and crudely built huts and stuff. So my impression was that they were doing these high interest loans and then maybe putting the squeeze on these people. And this was an attempt to get out of that.
That's certainly plausible, yeah.
Yeah, when I saw the Latin family, and the first thing I thought of, I was like, wow, we actually have some Latin representation in a
That's so weird to
Japanese
see, yeah.
animated movie, even though, he's the assassin. But I found it interesting that their characters were talking in Spanish almost the entire time, and they didn't give us any any subs for it.
Mm-hmm.
At least in the dub version. What about you guys?
No, in Japanese as well, no subs.
There were no subs for the Spanish. So I was like wondering, how are non-Spanish people interpreting these scenes? Because, when he has is it Miyuki?
Yeah.
When he has Miyuki in the car, because he kind of takes her hostage after the shooting and heads to his house. It looks like he's talking a little bit rough to her. Like he's turned to her and he's talking a little bit rough, but I know what he's saying. He's just saying, do you want milk for the baby?
Right.
Milk is for babies. When you grow up, you have to drink beer.
And she's just like a little freaked out. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, how are non-Spanish speakers actually taking these scenes? I thought it was pretty interesting. Did you guys understand it?
Well, I didn't. I'm a non-Spanish speaker.
Okay.
I understood it a little bit, yeah. I think the intent there, I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I think the intent there was to get you to be more on, to come at it from Miyuki's perspective, right? Where, she's kind of like a fish out of water at this scene, right? And I think the intention was like, hey, there's another culture here, and, she's trying to navigate that. So to not have any subs, kind of gets you in that headspace much more. So I think that's the regard that they were trying to get.
Yeah, I
across.
agree.
I did like the fact that we got Hispanics represented in there that weren't caricatured. Because sometimes I've watched some like older animes and like Hispanic people are a bit stereotyped in some of those
for sure.
older animes. So much appreciated that even 2003 there was some good representation there.
Mm-hmm.
When Hannah collapses from exhaustion and coughs up blood, because of what I assume to be an underlying disease, the doctor doesn't really bring anything up. He kind of just says it's exhaustion, get your vitamins, get your nutrients, and rest. I thought there was an implication of AIDS there that the movie is subtly giving us without bringing that too much to the surface. It's brought up earlier when Hannah's talking to her mother. This is very prominent in the community. It's the first thing she assumes her husband died of.
So Ken died, did he? Was it AIDS?
He slipped on a bar of soap in the bathroom.
It's very possible. I mean, yeah, they really don't explain anything. Yeah, they just say exhaustion maybe because...
I mean, there wouldn't have been time for a blood test there.
Or I think maybe they already know that she has it. Or they have it.
Oh.
So they're not
that's
they're not going to
interesting.
say, "Oh, you have AIDS."
You can't afford the treatment anyway. You're homeless.
Yeah, or what treatment?
Right.
Barely, right?
Well, yeah. I mean,
So-
there's treatment. You can,
Yeah,
you
there
can
is-
live a full life.
Oh. Oh, yes. That's true.
But very
I forgot
expensive.
this is not the
This is
80s
not- yeah,
or
yeah.
the 90s. Yeah, they probably already know they have a history already on them.
Yeah. Could be.
With all that. So they're not going to be like, "Hey, you have AIDS." And Hannah's going to be like, "Duh, I know that already."
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, that actually brings up a good point because we don't see Hannah and the doctor talk. So for all we know, maybe the doctor talked to her, and basically, Hannah says, "Oh yeah, I suspect that I have it."
And
Right,
it's going to be a
and-
private matter, right? You're not going to hear, like, the doctor's not going to say that in front of
Right.
everybody.
You wouldn't be able to. That'd be...
Right.
Another kind of hint for that for me was that when Hannah's describing how her husband died, she gives the slipped on a bar of soap, which sure, that's realistic, happened all the time, but it seemed made up to me.
That definitely seemed made up to me for sure. Like there was some other reason, because my understanding was that propelled her then, to become homeless
Right.
afterwards. Like that so devastated her that, she went to homelessness.
I think just getting AIDS propelled her to leave, to run away from home, pretty much. From their...
Her family who works as like
Yeah.
a drag queen community.
Exactly.
Oh, right. Okay.
Hannah probably didn't want to...
I think the
admit
outburst
that.
had something to do with it. Like with the outburst, she had the outburst because of the pain of, her prognosis.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. Although according to the mother, that didn't really seem like something that would kick her out. So, maybe Hannah just,
Exactly.
just
Hannah
decided to-
used it.
She isn't
to
kicked out.
leave.
Yeah,
Right.
she leaves.
Yeah.
Right.
Hannah just leaves after the outburst, uses that to leave instead of admitting to her mother that they have AIDS.
Yeah. Yeah. She's gone through a lot of trauma in her life. She was abandoned. And I imagine, being trans definitely didn't help, especially in that culture at that time. So, she's...
And in Japan, I imagine it's even worse.
Exactly, yeah. So I've gone through all that. Yeah, it's just... I think that speaks to a lot of the central, or one of the central themes of this film, which is like the found family, right? The idea that you choose who your family is, not who you're born with, right?
Yeah.
Or you're born to. So a lot of the characters' trauma had to do with their families or their spouses or whomever. And while they weren't in the right on those for the most part, at the same time, it allowed them to then come together and find each other and support one another. And, that's one of the reasons why I really love this film, is because of the fact that, they have agency in their life. They have agency in deciding who they want to be with and who they love and who they don't love and things like that. And there are definitely a lot of films that you get a found family, but I feel like this one resonated with me a lot more because of their conditions, because of the circumstances that led them to them being home displaced. So it resonated with me a lot more, because not only do they have to deal with all the familial things, then they have to deal with that on top of not having security, not having shelter, not having food. So I thought,
And then the stigma's on top, which is why I don't agree with them softening the language for those characters. It takes away from their experience.
definitely.
Miyoki represents the epitome of the tragedy of all three characters, which is that whatever they did, whatever crime they did, whatever weakness they saw themselves that caused them to run away, is paled in comparison to the pain it causes their loved ones and friends for leaving. They all discover that by the end that they're instantly forgiven, and it was mostly in their mind, whatever horror they brought to their people. Miyoki kind of loses it and stabs her father, which is definitely bad.
Not good.
That's
Not
not
good.
good. That's a no good.
She thinks he did something to her cat, which I don't know if she was just paranoid or maybe he was an angry father, but she thinks he did something to her cat and so stabs him and is asking like, where's Angel? Where's Angel?
How could you do this to me? Why?
This is your fault! You never listen to me! You don't give a crap about anyone but yourself! Why don't you wipe up your blood with the scarf I made you? Where's Angel?
And then obviously feels horrible for what she did and ran away. And then I think maybe the most coincidental, unlikely event happens where she finds a random newspaper on a specific day where he had put out an ad saying Angel has come home. So she learns that they didn't even do anything to the cat. The cat just ran away.
I think that was just the boiling point, because during the rant after stabbing the father, she also mentions just that he's not there for her.
I felt like that was just teenager whining though.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying that's what she says.
Gotcha.
But
yeah, definitely.
you
Like
know,
most of the problems are in her head, her own guilt or whatever. The family wants her back.
right. I think her internal reasoning was just feeling emotionally abandoned by her father, not the cat. I think the cat was the final, like,
It's like the catalyst for it.
the straw that broke the camel's back, per se. Either way, it was not a good idea. And she knew that. And she couldn't face her father again, hence becoming homeless by choice.
Right.
So actually, my first impression of Miyuki wasn't too positive.
No?
No, I mean, from the beginning, because I didn't know about the stabbing and all that, right? But she was just like, for one, she kind of threw it in their faces that she's homeless by choice. She's like, I can go back home whenever I want.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, damn, you're kind of a jerk. And she came off as bratty, lazy.
It didn't bother me because I felt like they were in on it, that she's lashing out because she doesn't want to be seen as weak. But they were like kind of laughing her off. It didn't seem hurtful from their end.
Oh, definitely
Gotcha.
not. Yeah, I definitely didn't get the sense that they were hurt by what she said, because they even like talk it off as like, oh yeah, heard that before.
Yeah.
The ones who say that are the ones who always stay anyways. So
No, yeah, I know. I got that as well. It wasn't because of how they felt. I just felt like just her in general. I was like, I didn't like her character at first.
Definitely.
I just thought she was very ungrateful and bratty and just being homeless because she's being angsty. You know what I mean? So, but she grew on me as time went on, and when I learned more about her story, and you see her really emotionally maturing,
yeah,
as it goes on. Like, in the beginning of the film, she didn't want to lift a finger for any of them, right? She was always just like laying there doing nothing,
Right.
And then by the end, she's every time they would ask her, Miyuki, to go get something, she was like, okay, sure, no problem. Like she felt like
the addition of the
she
baby seemed like it really cemented this as a family. Like they relied on each other before, they were close friends, they cared about each other, but the baby completed it.
Yeah, now they had like this common goal.
Yeah, exactly.
And that united them.
Yeah, it's interesting with her because I definitely understood from her perspective that she was going through a ton of trauma because of what she did. I mean, you don't hear every day that a kid who's lashing out stabs their father.
Yeah,
right?
Who seemingly wasn't abused or anything, just maybe didn't have the perfect home life.
Right, exactly. And for me, I had that thought the whole time of like, oh man, she really did like something terrible, right? And normally for me, like, intention matters in terms of why you do something, you know, as like terrible as that. And I was really trying to get in her headspace of what would make her want to do that, right? Like, what terrible thing must have happened?
Yeah, it's difficult because you don't see the lead up. You just she tells you what happened, but you don't see the moments before it happened.
Right. So where I'm going with this is I've watched a little bit, not all of it, of Satoshi Kon's Paranoia Agent, which is a wonderful one season anime that deals with a bit of like trauma, mental health issues, and things like that. So, I have to wonder, I don't want to armchair psychologist it, but, I have to wonder if she had some like mental health issues prior to, like that inciting incident. And that's what caused her to potentially, stab her father. Right. And even throughout the film, she's very distant. She's very against everyone. Like the very first scene you see of her is she's spitting on people. She's angry at them and she's angry at the world. Probably angry at herself. So for me, it was difficult to get into her headspace at first, but as we learned more about her and as she started, showcasing like more positive attributes, I really started to like feel for her, and she ended up being actually probably my favorite character towards the end. Like Hana throughout was probably my favorite character, but then, all the things that Miyuki started to do towards the end, she was the one that was chasing Sachiko, like the fake mother, up the staircase when she didn't really have to. Remember, she's like a teenager. Like most teenagers aren't gonna like put themselves out there and really try to like do something as almost selfless as what she did. So for me, I think the film really did a good job like building her up to that point, because I've definitely seen other films where there's like an emotional change in a character, and I don't feel like it's really earned. And this film, despite it only being like about an hour and a half, I think it really earned her like, switch there. So
Yeah, I didn't get the feeling of mental health issues. I guess she came across more to me just as ignorant and sheltered. But yeah, that's definitely up to interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with a lot of students at this point in my life, and even the ones that you would call quote unquote like sheltered and ignorant wouldn't do something as like terrible as a stabbing.
Fair enough. Yeah, I would have liked to see what came before. What do you think, Danny?
That's a tough one. I mean, yeah, like you said, it's up to interpretation. I also did not see the mental health angle on it, but now that you say it, I mean, it's definitely a possibility.
To bring up Jin a little bit, after Jin kind of takes off from the group, well, he doesn't take off from the group leaves him because he's being stubborn and saying, there's no chance of finding this baby, we're not action heroes. He goes off and kind of drinks himself into a stupor when he comes across a premonition of his future in the form of an old dying man in the street.
Very Dickensian, for sure.
Dickensian? What's that?
Charles Dickens, he did a Christmas Story, I think it's called. The one with Ebenezer Scrooge, where he sees like
gotcha.
Christmas past, Christmas
Right.
future. I forget the exact terms, and these are potential like warnings of like where his future will be if he continues down that path. So it reminded me a lot of that old man that I think you're referencing.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Jin was a good person at heart already, but this really kind of showed, even in his drunken stupor and his anger, he's gonna stop and help this guy and take him home and feed him and take care of him.
Yeah, that really that was really a heartwarming moment, and I definitely grew to like Jin even more at that point. I always did like him as well. I thought he was always a good guy, and he was
Right,
very
same.
fatherly to the baby from the beginning. He's the only one that knew really what to do
Yeah.
in terms of how to feed the baby and hold the baby. So
Even as a severe alcoholic, he's giving this old man swigs, right?
yeah.
And the old man keeps going, one last favor. And
Oh,
he just-
that whole scene was hilarious. The fact that the old man immediately takes a swig and then just passes, and then Jin goes to cover his eyes. He covers it, and then the eyes are even more wide open. He's like, "Whoa," which I thought was hilarious. He's like, "One more thing, please."
we have some misdirect comedy there because, he seemingly passes away and then it cuts to the outside. You see the little windmill stop. Oh, his soul is gone.
Yes.
Cuts back inside. He wakes up and the thing starts spinning again super fast. Like completely unrealistic.
Jin goes to like cover his eyes, like a dead soldier,
Yeah.
Right.
and when he passes his hand over his face, his eyes are still wide open.
I think wider than before.
wider. Yeah, he's like, oh, and it scares him.
And then one last favor.
So let's talk about that last favor, right?
Oh.
He pulls out like this cloth sack
Yes.
filled with something. At this point in time, we don't really know what it is. He hands it to Jin, and he says something like, I don't want people to what, like see me?
I don't want anyone to find out. It'll only hurt them.
Okay, to find out. It only hurt them. Okay, that's what it was. Yeah, I mean, I was very curious as to what that was. And,
Same. I was gonna ask you guys.
And then that they didn't. They really didn't talk about it or show it at all until pretty much one of the very last.
Yeah, one of the very last
scenes. And then the camera cuts to it and it's like it's open a little bit and you could see what's in there.
Mm-hmm.
And what I assume is a lot of money.
It was the winning lotto
tickets,
$1 million or whatever, and the conversion is.
Okay, that was the winning. Okay, why do you think he didn't want people to see that?
I'll let you guys.
Well, I don't know that we see everything in there, because the way I interpreted that was he had some personal belongings or personal, like something that would identify him as who he was.
Right, there was like a little passport book, right?
I think so, yeah, something like that. So I think it's some kind of identification that he wanted away from his body, so that when he passed, they wouldn't be able to identify him, because, procedure would be they would notify, next of kin and any like family members.
That's it.
So
sure.
That's what I thought.
They want him to be a Jane Doe, or he wanted to be a Jane Doe.
Yeah.
Oh, very interesting. I didn't notice the passport. I was just looking at all the money or whatever it was.
It looks something like that, I'm assuming.
I think so. That's got to be it. That's what makes sense. Yeah, my first thought was, what, he doesn't want people to know he gambles? Is that worse than being an alcoholic on the street?
And so we know that it's the winning lotto ticket because the numbers match.
On the TV announcement, they announced the winnings, yeah.
Right. But he didn't know that.
I assume not.
Right.
No, because the winnings were announced after he interacts with the old man.
So are we going to see Tokyo Godfathers 2 and they're like filthy rich?
Well, you say that, but I did a Google search when I was looking where to stream it, and there is, at least a Google search, Tokyo Godfathers 2. I think it's called like Dreamers something or another.
What?
Like, I don't know if it's like a redux of the film or something like that. I didn't really look too deeply into it, but there, at least on Google, there does exist a Tokyo Godfathers 2. Who knows where it leads? Listeners, tell us, please. What is Tokyo Godfathers 2? Does it actually exist? Leave a comment below.
Well, I know Satoshi Kon didn't make it, so not interested personally.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Talking about the old man as a sort of premonition of where Jin's life could go if he doesn't change his ways. Do you think this film would have been as effective or as resonant if there wasn't life at stake, meaning the baby? Like, do you think there could have been a film here where the characters could have still gone on the same kind of journey, but it wasn't because of a baby, or it wasn't because of a life? Like, off the top of my head, I think to myself, what if they decided, hey, Miyuki, we're going to reunite you with your family? And they were like on the opposite ends of Japan, and they journeyed to like go, reunite her with her parents. Like something like that. Do you think the film would have been as resonant? Do you feel like the characters would have ended up in the same point emotionally and character-wise?
Possibly Hana and Jin could have, if that was their driving force, but I don't see Miyuki having the same effect.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Because there's nothing to drive Miyuki at that point. The baby was the driving force for everyone. It's what united everyone. Miyuki going home, I don't think would have been as effective.
I think it would have worked, but now we're talking about an adult animation movie. I think the baby is necessary as an avatar for children to attach themselves to. They're scared for the baby. I also think it helps with women and older folks to have that high stakes save the baby through line. Yeah, homeless people surviving on the street trying to find their way and grow and connect and rebuild their lives is a great movie, but I don't think that's as wide an audience.
Because I think this film was rated G, right?
I'm not sure.
Looking up on Google, I think it was. So yeah, I imagine it was probably marketed towards families as well, not just
I don't think it was rated G. I mean, you do see
nudity.
nudity.
I'd be surprised with the language and the violence.
You see women's nipples.
Well,
but
right.
It's in breastfeeding.
Right.
Was that okay?
Yeah,
breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Oh, I actually didn't know that.
Actually, if you don't mind, I want to look it up. Now I'm curious.
I'm gonna guess not, because drugs, violence, suicide, all that. I'd be really surprised if it was G.
Oh, PG-13. Okay.
Yeah, I want to add that. Yeah, I feel like having something as fragile as a baby too really increases the stakes. You know what I mean? If it was just them three, they're all capable to an extent. They can all kind of take care of themselves.
I mean, just being in the cold with that baby in and of itself is tension creating.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I think it definitely lends to like the adventure aspect of the film for sure. That they needed something big to propel them, not just like a personal motivation, but it had to be something beyond their control.
Beyond them.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I would definitely still watch that movie, but I don't think it would have had the same reach at all.
I agree, actually. I do agree. Yeah.
One little funny moment that I noticed. When Jin and the rest of them get, they separate because Jin doesn't want to continue. I think Hannah goes off on him, calling him trash.
Oh my God, what a tirade. That was amazing.
Yeah. You really are a worthless pile of human garbage. Best thing you could do is die in the dump. At least then the trash is already taken out. Oh, poor me. Life is hard. How pathetic. The only thing you've ever accomplished in life is stinking up the room. So do us all a favor and throw yourself away, you worthless pile of trash.
I love that scene, but then afterwards he gets drunk and then he walks up to this police officer in like this booth and he goes, I got some trash I gotta get rid of. And then the police officer like looks at him strangely. He walks away. He comes back with like a little trash can and points it to him. And then Jin goes, I don't think I'm gonna fit.
No, that was good.
Thought that was amazing.
Soon after that, he gets beaten up by a bunch of punks who...
That wasn't funny.
No, hold on. Hold on.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. So he gets beaten up, but he manages to get like some effect back. Oh, it was the money and the letter to his daughter that he got back from them.
Yeah.
And he is dying in an alleyway, and all of a sudden he looks up and he sees an angel, and it's very like hallelujah music, oh, right? And she goes, oh, do you want my magic or an ambulance? And he goes, an ambulance. And all of a sudden the music cuts, the lighting is gone, and she's like, oh, and she's like, how rude.
Yeah.
Which I thought was hilarious, because I thought for a split second, is that really a real angel? And then the moment that cut, I was like, is that still a real angel?
Right. Is it just a pissed off angel now? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's like, is he gonna have like some pissed off angel following him or something? I don't know.
Yeah, turns out she's just the working girl. One of the working girls in Hannah's old brothel.
Yeah. Yeah, that, and also I think the baby sprouts wings at one point too, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yuki's like vision of the family.
So this is Satoshi Kon's most traditional narrative, but you do see a couple flashes like those we just mentioned of reality bending, and his other movies actually lean a lot heavier onto that. So if that's something you enjoy, that kind of blend between dream and reality and where it falls, I do recommend his other movies.
Talking about reality, there was a scene where they had found the house of like the mother and the husband of the baby, and as the complex manager is telling them what happened, you start cutting to like the group kind of off on their own doing some things, and it cuts back and more women are coming in and more, and it gets to the point where they just hear a little bit of gossip and they're just talking shit the whole time about this couple that they didn't really like and left them, and I thought to myself, I've definitely seen that a lot in the apartments that I've lived in for sure. Where
I felt like some serious time had passed and they were still going on.
Oh, dude, people could talk for hours talking crap about somebody for sure.
We're wondering, do you know anything about these people?
She never paid me back for her neighborhood association dues. Her husband was a piece of work too. All he ever did was gamble day and night, and he was a mean drunk. They lived on whatever the wife made, and a lot of borrowed money.
If I remember it right, they left 3 months ago. Rumor was they were up to their necks in debt, and the house had been seized. So one night, they up and left. They seemed like a nice couple at first. It wasn't long before you could hear them fighting.
I'm sure it was about money.
For a man in so much debt, he sure did lord over her. Very demanding. There were some days you could see bruises.
That's awful, that poor woman.
No, they weren't on her, they were on her husband. The wife's mother always took the husband's side for some reason. The husband's parents built them this house. I remember the mother-in-law always complaining, and after the wife for not doing the housework.
Still, she did get pregnant.
Well, a man and a woman under one roof
Always find time
to do what they must.
And clearly they didn't know the couple that well, because they would
Not
start
at
talking
all.
and be like, you know what? Maybe she might know something more. And then she comes in, she says what she knows, which is a little bit. And then she's like, oh, but maybe Martha might know a little bit more. And then that's when it really starts building up. But that was such a good scene.
They speculated wildly, and I loved it.
We got some good tidbits in there. We do find out that the husband is a drunken gambler, just like Jin. And I believe he's also a victim of domestic abuse. Maybe that might be their gossip. But they're like, oh, and the bruises. Oh my God, she was beaten. No, the husband.
Yeah, based off of her characterization, I can definitely see that.
Right. She's kind of close to the edge.
That was quite a twist. You guys want to talk about that with the baby?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about the ending and like that whole sequence.
So Hannah and Miyuki are walking down a bridge, and I think they're talking about suicide at that point.
They are relating the exact story that's happening behind them.
Right.
They're speculating, and it was like on point.
Oh, we got to return this baby. Maybe the mother's about to jump off a bridge.
Yeah, you see this lady behind taking off her shoes, getting the railing.
Yeah, as her supposed mother is about to jump off a bridge. So they save her life. They pull her away. She sees the baby. Immediately her eyes, widen, open wide, and she, has a real, oh, that's her baby.
Right.
They give the baby back.
She tells them, my husband forced me to do it, something like that.
Forced her to give up the baby.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, while that's happening, Jin is actually on his way to the residence because he found another clue to where this lady, the mother of the baby, might live. So he gets there and he finds the father.
Who's a hoarder, right?
Who's a super hoarder, yeah. The house is disgusting.
Hoarder, depressed too.
Yeah.
For sure,
Yeah.
And he pretty much tells him the real story, which is quite a twist. That really caught me by surprise. I did not think that was going to happen, but...
Thriller.
No.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to disagree till the end on that one. After this too, I'm probably going to do some research on what a thriller really is, because now you have me curious. But yeah, he essentially says that he's not even with his wife anymore. They broke up.
No, I don't think they broke up.
Yeah.
Did you get that impression?
She left.
She left him.
Okay.
Yeah, that she left him, and that she stole the baby from a hospital.
Right, because she had a miscarriage.
So, yeah, she, in her grief, was trying to replace her baby with another one, and she was just out of her mind.
Yeah. I thought the depiction of kind of psychotic grief was very fair for her, actually. I don't think they painted her under an unfair light. They're living under the constant stress as rent dodgers, essentially. I think they're going from place to place dodging rent, right? The place where he finds the husband might be a storage unit, actually. I'm not even sure if that's an apartment.
It did look like an apartment, but anyways.
Anyways. They're definitely practically homeless. And now she's lost the best thing in her life. So I thought it was a really good depiction of somebody who would reach that point, who would steal a baby and kind of lose her mind and start deluding themselves. Not just some woman who lost her mind because she lost her baby. It was an accumulation of things. And that's when trauma happens to the mind,
Right.
You don't have time to recover from one thing.
Yeah, I thought the only part that was a little bit, maybe a little less realistic to me was the fact that she was willing to jump off the building with the baby, or attempt to.
Oh, I see that.
You see it too?
I saw it too, yeah.
Really?
Because she was just so broken and despondent, beyond repair. It's like she just wanted to see her baby again, her real baby, and was going to take this one with her, basically. So I definitely saw that through all the events that were going on.
Taking the one good thing with her.
Yeah, well, regardless of whether, we think or we don't think she should have, that was still a very intense scene. And
hey, you know who the hero is? That taxi driver.
Definitely.
Oh my goodness.
That poor taxi driver.
The worst luck This guy keeps running into this group.
Hey, but he helps them, right? With
He
nothing to
does.
gain and everything to lose.
He never got paid.
No.
They never had any money. He could have just driven off the second time, but no, he just kept. He was such a good sport about it.
Yeah.
When he came back, I was like, yes.
I know.
Yes.
I liked him. Oh, a nice little detail too. We kind of just passed it though. But when Hannah finds the baby's mother, she slaps the shit out of her with all the force of a man.
That's right.
Yeah.
She went flying.
Yeah, that was definitely a well-deserved slap for sure.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming because she was just talking about how I'm going to forgive the mother and right all this wrong.
Well, it was well-deserved based on what she thought she was the mother.
Right. I mean, ultimately well-deserved either way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It was proven out to be true.
Yeah.
Another interesting side plot. But what did you think about this kind of almost romance between Jin and Hannah? Like this unproclaimed love that was hinted at throughout the entire film?
So I thought that was just Miyuki wanting a real family. Kind of, you guys should be together kind of thing. I don't think there was anything there, besides family love.
Family love.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think, Sean?
The way Hannah described it after she like verbally lashed out at Jin in the hospital when her daughter was there made it really seem like true love there.
It's still true love.
Just not romantically.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it was like playing house, but I don't think they wanted to have sex. Yeah.
I don't think there was like a physical attraction thing. It was more like an emotional love.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
Which could still be a little
that
romantic.
could still be romantic for sure.
It could still be romantic,
yeah,
but
real
not
love,
sexual.
Yeah,
exactly.
there are a lot of asexuals out there for sure.
I could definitely see that for sure. And another moment, actually, it was like she had just denied it, like her love for Jin, and then suddenly she hears that a homeless man had died,
right,
in the cold or something. And she runs to the ambulance and she's like, Jin, no. And she's trying to reach the body to to see him or whatever. And then when they uncover it, it's actually the older man that died. Okay, so I have a couple of did you knows.
Danny's did you know
for you guys.
Okay.
So here's an interesting one. So did you know that actually in the beginning of the movie, they pass by this convenience store and you can actually see a few posters, and they are of Perfect Blue 1997, which was another Satoshi Kon film. You could also see Tokyo Godfathers itself,
really?
A poster of it.
I did not see that. Wow.
And
I did catch them. I didn't see the Tokyo Godfather one.
Yep.
Okay.
And Millennium Actress.
Yeah.
Another did you know is that the number 12-25, which is the date of Christmas, appears throughout the film. The number on the key ring is 1225.
Yeah.
The cab fare is 12250.
Oh.
And a stopped alarm clock also has that number. The address in the newspaper ad has that number. And the cab license plate has that number.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Quite a few times.
Nice.
Earlier, I mentioned about the Yakuza.
Yeah.
And I told you guys that I had something about that I was going to tell you guys later. Well, this is it.
Tell me.
You are Yakuza.
Gimme.
So the guy, I think his name was Oda, I think. Yeah, which is the mob boss.
Gotcha.
Yeah. His car number was actually 8893, which in Japan...
I don't know this, so do tell.
In Japan, 893 is a number that represents the Yakuza in a cryptic way in modern times, and is actually said to be the origin of the word Yakuza, because adding 8, which is Ya, 9, Ku, and 3, Za, gives us 0 for first place.
Oh, there you go. They're Yakuza then. Okay.
So, which is the lowest score in a Japanese card game, similar to Baccarat, which is another interesting thing.
Oh, that's cool.
That's it for my Did You Knows. I thought they were pretty interesting this time.
Yeah, those are some good ones. I like it.
Definitely.
The movie concludes with one last Christmas miracle. The police officer who escorts the real mother to our group's room turns out to be Miyoki's father. At that point, with all the coincidences, I saw that coming, but it was still really nice.
Yeah, first was the train, and then there was another
I mean, the movie's just full of coincidences.
Yeah,
But in terms of
true.
that, yeah, she comes across her father before.
I actually found that not coincidental because he's the police commissioner. And I imagine this night with like all this like crazy happenings going on. I imagine the police commissioner want to go down and like check it out and reassure them because it was a big story in the news that day, especially like on Christmas Eve.
Was he commissioner?
Yeah, they said police commissioner.
Okay, that makes more sense then. I was like, it could be any police officer, but if he's commissioner, okay. Yeah, and then the movie hard cuts to the cityscape while some fun music plays us out with the buildings dancing and everything. I thought that was a really beautiful ending for it. Really fit the tone.
I loved it because they zoom in on everyone's reaction as the police commissioner comes in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but then like they cut last to the baby and the baby's like, job well done.
That's great.
I brought them all together. Like seriously, there's a little bit of divine providence that the film tries to get across through
no
Hannah's
doubt.
character. And Hannah mentions multiple times his baby was brought down as some kind of providence for the characters. So I imagine, the director probably played that up a little bit with like the baby kind of reacting in certain ways to, move the plot forward. In the case of the ending, just saying my job is done, which I thought was hilarious. That was great. I love that ending. Oh, such a beautiful,
it was
beautiful ending.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Very beautiful, very heartwarming. Everyone got the reunion that they needed pretty much in this movie. And, speaking of coincidences, again, Jin also got his reunion with his daughter, who happened to be the nurse at the end.
And then Hana lays out all his dirty laundry, and she'll still forgive him. That's because it's family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I got the sense that Hana did that so that the daughter would be more inclined to forgive him.
Right.
Because Hana pretty much says, like, I did that for him, basically.
Yeah, she pretty much explains to Miyuki that she did that purposely.
Yeah.
I mean, purposely or not, I liked that everything was up in the air now. There were no more secrets.
That's why she did it. I think she just wanted to just get everything out there so Jin had no choice but to like come clean and be himself with his daughter.
Yeah, quit BSing.
Yeah. So she just pretty much told her everything right there. Like, boom, take it, learn from it, move on, people. That was awesome.
No wonder I love this film. It's a common theme I keep coming back to and I enjoy, which is characters actually listen to each other.
Well, that's the lesson they learned.
They quit the pretense and they actually just talk to each other, like just person to person.
None of them would have been homeless if they had talked through their problems.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Are we ready for scores?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to start off with 8.5 dumpster babies out of 10.
Oh, my goodness.
Just fluffy enough to break into the mainstream while having the integrity to show humanity and extremely flawed characters. An easy recommendation for anyone.
Absolutely. I completely agree. With that being said, yeah, I also give it an 8.5.
Boom.
It, such a great film. The story is just so well laid out and well layered. The characters are such a beautiful, unique ensemble that really works together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love the themes. We didn't really talk about the music, but I also really enjoyed all the music in the film. The animation style as well was beautiful. So yeah, 8.5 bottles of gin out of 10.
I'm trying to think of a good pun for my score, but I can't think of any right now.
Loser.
Oh,
You dropped the ball, bro. You've changed.
I hope I don't become home displaced because of that. So I give the film 9.5 out of 10. I love this film. I love it so much that right before we start recording, I looked on Amazon to see how much it was, because this is a film that I want to watch yearly around this time. And I love the themes. I love the heartwarming message, the journey that they went on. Pretty much very few, if any, nitpicks with the film. I think this is as close to a perfect film as there can get.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's a high endorsement right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And for anybody who wants to, I'll let you get back to it, but for anybody who wants to get the Blu-ray, this actually has a 4K remaster with a bunch of special features, so it's an easy recommendation.
Yeah, and hearing you say that it's something you want to watch every year for Christmas, like it could become kind of traditional.
Yeah.
I can definitely agree with that. There's
Totally.
not many movies that I can say that I would like to watch yearly. Like one for me is like Nightmare Before Christmas. I like to watch that one every year. But I think that's about it. I don't really have another yearly one. Maybe I'll add Trains, Planes, and Automobiles for Thanksgiving season.
Yeah.
I've had that thought for sure.
All right, let's wrap this baby up. Next week, we're watching a well-known holiday gem to bring in Christmas with style. Take off your shoes and grease yourself up for Die Hard 1988. Who needs marriage counseling when you have a building full of German baddies looking for an easy payday? Not in my country, punk. Sean, let them know where they can find us.
You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Ardent Cinema. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app, please give us a rating and a review. They really go a long way towards building the podcast. And if you're listening to us on YouTube, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and click the little notify bell. Ding-a-ling-ling, indeed. So that you're made aware when new episodes drop every week. And with that, guys, thank you very much for listening. We will bid you a Christmassy adieu. Ding,
Long live
dong,
the new flesh.
Ding dong, ding dong, ding.
Merry
dong.
Christmas.
Goodbye.
Farewell.